The moment the photographer grabbed my wrist, I knew something was terribly wrong. His grip wasn't forceful, but deliberate, as if he was holding back panic. I was only seconds away from walking down the aisle, with music already playing and every guest standing to watch me take my first step toward the man I loved. But Ezra, our wedding photographer and longtime family friend, looked straight into my eyes and said in a low, controlled voice, "Lila, do exactly what I say. Check your phone. Do not react." My heart pounded. I thought maybe something had happened to my mother or my sister. I lifted my phone, expecting a missed call or a text from family. What I saw instead froze me in place. It was a picture of me in my wedding dress, taken from behind, inside the private bridal suite, where only my mother, my sister Ivy, and I had been getting ready. The message underneath said, "If you take one more step toward him, everything you love will be destroyed." My breath caught painfully in my chest. This was not a prank. Whoever sent that message had been inside my private room without anyone noticing. My skin prickled as I realized I wasn't just being watched. I was being hunted. I looked up and saw Noah, my groom, standing at the altar. He smiled softly when he saw me, his eyes full of warmth and patience. He had no idea that in that exact moment I was questioning everything, whether I was safe, who was behind that message, and most terrifying of all, if Noah himself had anything to do with it. My name is Lila Hart, and today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it became the day I discovered the person I trusted most might be hiding a truth that could destroy all of us. If you are watching this, stay with me until the end. This story might be the most important warning you ever hear. Subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because what happened next will change the way you look at love and trust forever. That morning, I woke up to the sound of soft laughter in the hallway. My mother, Rachel, was already in full wedding mode, making sure every detail was perfect. She had dreamed about this day almost as much as I had. She kept saying, "Today, my daughter begins her forever." My father had passed away 3 years ago, so it was important to my mom that everything felt meaningful, gentle, and full of love. She said Dad would be watching us with pride. My younger sister Ivy burst into my room holding coffee and a bouquet of white roses. Ivy and I shared everything growing up, secrets, heartbreaks, dreams. She was my maid of honor, my best friend, and my anchor through every storm in life. There was no one I trusted more. The wedding venue was a lakeside estate surrounded by tall oak trees and soft, rolling hills. The morning sun reflected on the water, painting the sky in soft blues and pinks. It was peaceful, a perfect beginning. Guests were arriving early, laughing, greeting old friends, taking pictures in front of the floral arch Noah had arranged as a surprise for me. While my hair was being styled, my phone buzzed. Noah had sent me a short video message. In it, he was standing by the altar, smiling warmly. "Lila," he said, "before everyone else sees you, I want you to hear this from me. No matter what happens today, I choose you. I will always choose you." The words touched my heart, but something about them made me pause. Not with fear, but curiosity. What did he mean by, "no matter what happens"? I brushed it off as nervous excitement. My mother walked in just then and stood behind me, looking at my reflection in the mirror, her eyes filled with tears. "You look just like I imagined," she said. "Your father would be so proud." I squeezed her hand and felt a wave of emotion rush through me. This was more than a ceremony. It was a new beginning, a promise. As the time came to walk down the aisle, Ivy helped adjust my veil. "You ready?" she asked, smiling brightly. I nodded, even though my heart was pounding. I stepped toward the door that led to the aisle. The music began to play. Guests stood. My mother wiped a tear. Noah was waiting for me with that same steady smile, the smile that made me fall in love with him the first time we met at a charity event 2 years ago. But just as I placed my hand on the doorknob, Ezra appeared. His normally calm face was pale. His voice was steady but urgent as he said, "Don't go out there yet. You need to see this." He handed me my phone. And in that single moment, everything shifted. A picture of me in that exact dress, in that exact room, taken minutes ago, from an angle that made it clear someone had been standing just out of sight. The caption underneath was not just threatening, it was personal. It referenced something I had never spoken aloud to anyone other than my late father. Someone knew my secret. Someone was here, at my wedding, and they were ready to destroy me. Before I could react, another message came in. This is your only warning. I looked up at Ezra, and for the first time since I had known him, I saw fear in his eyes. Not for himself, but for me. My hands were trembling as I stared at the phone screen, but Ezra's calm voice pulled me back to the moment. He whispered, "We need to move now, before someone notices you haven't started walking." I nodded, forcing myself to breathe. The music continued playing beyond the doors, the guests likely whispering, wondering what caused the delay. My mother and sister were waiting for me at the end of the aisle, but I couldn't think about them right now. I followed Ezra through a side hallway that led away from the ceremony area and into a smaller lounge where the bridal party had gathered earlier. As soon as the door closed behind us, I turned to him and asked, "Who sent this? Did you see anyone go into the dressing room?" Ezra shook his head. "No one should have been in there except your family. But there's more. Those messages were routed through a proxy. Whoever did this knows what they're doing." Before I could speak, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a photo. It was a video. I pressed play. The video showed Noah 2 nights ago, sitting in what looked like a dimly lit restaurant booth. Across from him was a woman whose face was partially hidden by her hair. Noah was holding her hand over the table. The camera slowly zoomed in on their hands as if someone was secretly recording them. Then the video ended and a message appeared. "He's lying to you. Walk away now, or you will be the one who pays for his secrets." I felt a sharp pain in my chest, like my heart was being crushed from the inside. I shook my head, trying to process what I had just seen. "This has to be fake," I whispered, more to myself than to Ezra. Noah would never do this to me. Not now. Not ever. But then another message appeared before I could even put my phone down. "Ask him about June 14th. My breath caught. June 14th was the date Noah had gone missing for a full day during our engagement. He had told me it was work-related, but he never gave me details. I believed him then. Now doubt crawled up my spine like ice. Ezra placed a hand on my shoulder. "Lila, you need to decide right now if we confront him privately or call this off. But whatever you do, you can't let whoever is sending these messages stay in control." Just then, the door opened. It was Ivy. She looked confused and worried. "Lila, why are you in here? Everyone is waiting. Mom is about to panic." I looked at my sister and handed her my phone. Her eyes widened as she read the messages and watched the video. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then she looked at me with a seriousness I had never seen in her face. "We need to find out who is doing this. It could be someone trying to break you and Noah apart, or it could be someone trying to protect you." I asked, "Protect me from what?" Ivy remained silent, but the fear in her eyes told me she had a theory she wasn't ready to say out loud. Before I could ask more, my mother entered the room. She was out of breath, her eyes red as though she had been crying. "Please tell me you're okay," she said, reaching for me. Ezra stepped back, allowing her in. I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. But before I could answer, another message appeared on my phone. This one didn't show a photo or video. It was a sentence that made all the blood drain from my face. "If you tell your mother, she will be the first one to pay the price." I quickly turned the phone over so she wouldn't see it. My legs weakened and I grabbed the edge of the vanity for support. All at once, I realized this wasn't just about me and Noah. Whoever was behind this was willing to hurt the people I loved to force me into silence. A new thought began to rise like smoke in the back of my mind. Whoever this was knew something very personal about my past, something that connected me, my mother, and the date June 14th. I looked at my mother carefully. Her expression had changed. She was trying to appear calm, but there was a flicker of recognizably guarded fear in her eyes. Ivy noticed it too. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I suddenly understood. This wasn't just about Noah's secrets. This was about mine. Secrets I thought were buried with my father. secrets my mother warned me to never speak of again. And now, on the day I was meant to start a new life, someone from the shadows was determined to drag those secrets into the light. My pulse thudded in my ears as I stared at my mother, trying to read the truth behind her carefully controlled expression. She reached out to steady me, but I stepped back, my hands trembling. "What are you not telling me?" I asked, my voice raw. For a moment, she stayed silent, glancing at Ivy as if silently asking for support. Finally, she lowered her voice. "Lila, whatever is happening, we need to get you away from here before it escalates. There are things you don't know, things that could put you in danger if they surfaced today." Her words only confirmed what I already feared. This wasn't just about Noah and the mysterious woman in the video. Everything was linked to something in my past, something my mother had kept hidden. Before I could respond, Ezra's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. "They just accessed the venue's private Wi-Fi using a mirrored device," he said. "They're inside, and they're watching everything in real time." A chill ran through me. This wasn't someone threatening from a distance. This person was here, possibly among the guests, blending in as a friend or family member. Someone wanted to stop this wedding not out of jealousy or revenge, but because they were afraid of what would happen if I married Noah. And now, I needed to understand why. I clenched my phone and turned to my mother. "Is this about Dad?" Her eyes closed briefly, as if the truth itself caused physical pain. "The day your father had his heart attack," she whispered. "He received a message just like the one you received today." The ground beneath my feet seemed to tilt. My father's death had always felt sudden and unfair, but I had accepted it as a tragic part of life. Now, hearing this, it was as if his final moments were reaching forward to warn me. My mother continued, "He told me that if anything ever happened to him, I had to protect you at all costs. He said your future would be the key to exposing something bigger than us, something dangerous." She grabbed my hands tightly. "The people behind that message believe that if you marry Noah, you will gain access to something that could destroy them." My voice cracked with confusion and fear. "Access to what?" She looked me straight in the eye. "Your father hid information inside a trust that activates upon your legal marriage. Whoever controls that trust gains control over the evidence your father collected." My thoughts spun wildly. I walked toward the mirror, barely recognizing the bride staring back. I had thought this day was about love, commitment, and a promise of forever. Instead, I was standing at the center of a battle I never chose, holding a secret I didn't even know existed. Ezra stepped forward, his voice steady. "Lila, you need to decide. Do you go forward with this wedding and take control of whatever your father left behind, or do you call everything off to protect your family?" The choice was impossible. If I walked down that aisle, I would be walking into a storm with Noah at my side, not knowing if he was with me or hiding something from me. If I ran, I might save lives, but I might also lose the only chance to uncover the truth my father died protecting. Suddenly my phone buzzed again. This time it was a live photo. It wasn't of me. It was of Noah, standing alone inside a dim hallway of the venue, talking to someone whose face was obscured. Noah's expression wasn't one of anger or guilt. It was fear. Real, desperate fear. The caption underneath read, "He knows what today will unlock. He is not who you think he is." My heart twisted. The man I was about to marry wasn't just hiding something. He was terrified of it. I realized in that moment that Noah might not be the enemy. He might be another target in this game, and the only way to find out the truth was to stop being afraid and start acting. I looked at Ezra and Ivy. "I'm not walking away," I said firmly, "but I'm not walking down that aisle blind either. I need to confront Noah before anyone else does." My mother started to protest, but I held up my hand. If Dad fought to protect something with his life, then I won't run from it. Not today. A silent understanding passed between me and Ivy. She nodded and stepped forward. "We'll help you, but we need to move fast." Ezra checked the hallway before opening the door. As we stepped out, I felt the weight of my decision settle over me, not as fear, but as purpose. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was a turning point in a story my father began, and it was now my turn to finish it. As we moved through the hallway, the roar of distant chatter and wedding music echoed faintly behind us, growing quieter with every step. The air inside the side corridor felt colder, heavier, as though we were walking into a truth that had been waiting patiently beneath the surface of our lives. Ezra motioned us to stop as he spotted Noah standing near the back entrance of the venue, his head bowed, shoulders tense. The woman from the video was standing in the shadows beside him. For a heartbeat, my heart collapsed in my chest. I thought it was betrayal, but as I watched, Noah turned to her, not with affection, but with urgency and fear. I stepped forward before Ezra could. "Stop me." "Noah," I said, my voice firm but shaking. He turned toward me, eyes wide, as if he had been caught in a fire. "Lila, you're not supposed to be here," he said, glancing over his shoulder. The woman stepped into the light. She wasn't a stranger. She looked exactly like Noah. Same eyes, same jawline, same nervous tell in the way she held her hands. "My name is Arya," she said quietly. "I'm Noah's sister." My mind reeled. Noah had told me he was an only child. Before I could react, my phone buzzed again. A new message flashed across the screen. He lied to protect himself. "Walk away now, or you will inherit his enemies." I looked up at Noah, my voice breaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" Noah ran a hand through his hair, his voice shaking as he finally spoke the truth. "Because Arya is in hiding. Because if anyone finds out we are related, they will use her to destroy everything." Arya stepped forward and handed me a small drive, identical to the one my mother said controlled my father's trust. "Your father and ours worked together," she said. "They uncovered a network of people who were selling private data, manipulating elections, and laundering billions through charities. When they tried to expose it, both of them were targeted. Your father died. Ours went into hiding. Noah has been trying to finish what your father started, but the moment you marry him, the trust activates and everything transfers to both of you." Her voice softened. "And then you both become targets." The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I looked to Noah, needing confirmation, needing something that still made sense. "You should have told me," I said. Tears gathered in his eyes, not from guilt, but from the fear of losing me. "I wanted to protect you from it," he said. "I was going to tell you everything tonight, after the ceremony. I made a promise to your father before he died. He told me that when the time came, I had to choose between protecting you from this burden or standing with you in it." My breath caught as another truth surfaced. "You knew my father?" Noah hesitated, then nodded. "He approached me a year before he passed. He told me you were going to inherit something that would put you in the center of a war. He thought I was the only one who could stand beside you through it." In that moment, the puzzle pieces I had been chasing all day finally aligned into one chilling picture. My father hadn't been distant in his final years because he was busy. He was preparing for something, and he had chosen Noah, not just as a son-in-law, but as a guardian. Before I could speak, footsteps echoed from the corridor behind us. We turned to see my Aunt Vivian approaching, her face tight with rage. She held my phone in her hand. "You were supposed to run," she hissed. "You were supposed to break this wedding so the trust wouldn't activate." My stomach twisted. "It was you," I said, barely able to recognize my own voice. Vivian's eyes gleamed with cold fury. "Your father ruined everything for our family when he refused to share the trust. That money, that power, it belongs to us by blood. I wasn't going to let you hand it over to his enemies." She lifted a remote from her pocket and pressed it. Screens in the hallway flickered on, showing security footage from hidden cameras she had planted, footage that could destroy Noah, Arya, and every secret they had tried to protect. Before she could make another move, my mother appeared behind her, voice steady and strong. "Vivian, it's over. You will not harm my daughter." My mother had called security. Within seconds, guards approached and restrained Vivian as she screamed threats. I stood frozen, overwhelmed by the storm that had been unleashed, but also by a sudden, powerful realization. This wasn't the destruction of my life. It was the unveiling of it. The truth wasn't here to ruin me. It was here to free me. I turned back to Noah. He held my gaze and said softly, "You can still walk away, but if you stay, we fight this together." And in that moment, I understood the real choice wasn't whether to marry him. It was whether I was ready to step into the life my father had prepared me for. The moment Vivian was escorted out of the venue, the energy in the air shifted completely. It no longer felt like my wedding day. It felt like my life had split into two separate timelines. The one I had been living in, believing everything was safe and certain, and the one I had just stepped into, where every truth had a shadow and every choice carried consequence. My mother reached me first, tears pooling in her eyes, not of sorrow, but release. She cupped my face and said, "Your father trusted you more than anyone. He knew one day you would have the strength to confront what he couldn't." Her words hit me harder than anything else that had happened. It wasn't about inheriting a trust or uncovering a conspiracy. It was about becoming the woman my father believed I was meant to be. Ivy wrapped her arms around me, and I held her tightly, feeling the unspoken bond of sisters facing something that was bigger than both of us. Noah stood a few feet away, watching me with eyes full of uncertainty. Not fear of losing me, but fear of what I might choose now that I knew the truth. I walked toward him, every step feeling like a vow being written in real time. He didn't speak, didn't try to defend himself. He simply said, "Whatever happens next, I will stand with you, not because of the trust, not because of what your father left behind, but because I love you, and because I would rather face a lifetime of danger with you than live in safety without you." Arya watched with quiet, hopeful eyes, as if my choice would determine not just my future, but hers too. I looked around at the remnants of what was supposed to be a perfect day, flowers still perfectly arranged, chairs still lined in elegant rows, guests whispering in confusion. Everything still looked beautiful, but nothing was the same. The illusion was gone, and strangely, that gave me peace. I took Noah's hands in mine and said, "We won't continue the ceremony today, not because I'm walking away, but because the life we step into together can't begin with secrets. We begin with truth." A murmur rippled through the crowd as I turned to face everyone. For the first time in my life, I felt entirely in control of my future. I explained that the wedding was being postponed, not canceled. I told them I had made a discovery that would affect not only my family, but countless others. I promised that when we stood at that altar again, it would be with every truth in the open, every shadow exposed to light. Some guests were confused. Some were emotional, but many stood and applauded, not for drama, but for courage. My mother stood beside me. Ivy joined her. Noah and Arya stepped forward, and in that moment, I realized I was no longer a bride trying to protect her wedding day. I was a woman stepping fully into her purpose. Over the next weeks, everything changed. The trust my father created was activated legally, not by marriage, but by my choice to claim it directly as his heir. The files he had stored were released to legal authorities, exposing deep systems of corruption that had controlled networks of power for decades. Names that once seemed untouchable appeared in headlines across the country. Investigations were launched, arrests were made, assets were frozen, and while chaos filled the news, something extraordinary was happening under the surface. People were waking up. Communities were talking about transparency. Families were re-evaluating their priorities. It was as if a collective fog had lifted, and the world could finally see itself clearly. As for my family, healing began. My mother finally spoke openly about the fear she had carried for years after losing my father. Ivy moved in with me temporarily to help manage media attention. Arya remained under protective custody until the people who had targeted her were arrested. Her relationship with Noah, once defined by secrecy and danger, gradually became one of hope and rebuilding. And Noah and I, instead of rushing back into wedding planning, began attending counseling, not because we were broken, but because we wanted to build a marriage stronger than the forces that tried to tear it apart. We started walking by the lake every evening, discussing not wedding themes or flowers, but trust, legacy, and the meaning of choosing someone not just in joy, but in battle. The world did not magically become safe. The enemies my father warned us about did not disappear overnight. But something changed in me that day. I no longer viewed myself as a victim of circumstance or a bride whose day had been ruined. I saw myself as a guardian of truth, carrying forward the work my father began. My identity was no longer wrapped in silk and lace. It was forged in courage and choice. And when Noah eventually knelt before me again, not with a ring, but with a promise, I knew the life ahead of us, whatever it held, would be built on unshakable ground. If this story made you feel something, if it made you ask yourself what you would do in my place, make sure you subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because your story matters too, and it might be the next one the world needs to hear.